And will they or won't they reunite? Paul, George, and Ringo answer the question every Beatles fan wants to know. Plus, John Travolta, Tina Turner, Kurt Russell, and Joe Pesci. It's an hour of candid conversations and rare old footage when Access Hollywood goes in depth.
And later on, what's it like to be part of the biggest band in the world? Paul, George, and Ringo remember their Beatles days.
We love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. We love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, come on, come on, come on, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Fab Four. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Access Hollywood and our one-hour special where we are getting in-depth with the stars. I'm Nancy O'Dell.
And I'm Larry Menti. When it comes to the Beatles, what's left to say about a world-famous band that's broken just about every record in the books? Well, plenty. And Paul, Ringo, and George are talking with us and answering that big question fans of the group are still asking, will there ever be a Beatles reunion?
Well, this little band who got big and got bigger and got bigger and bigger and bigger.
We love you, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Already a musical phenomenon in their British homeland, the Beatles conquered America in 1964.
Oh, please let me be Paul.
Fans cried, screamed, and went crazy over the four lads from Liverpool.
Why does it excite them so much?
We don't know, really. If we knew, we'd form another group and be managers.
As time went on, each member began to develop their own individual musical style and outside interests. George Harrison fell in love with the music of the Far East. Through his association with Indian musician Ravi Shankar, Harrison turned the other three Beatles on to Hindu music and teachings.
Just gave me more depth, really. But through my involvement with India, through yoga, meditation, all those things, it's shown me that there is actually a reason that we're in these bodies.
By the late 60s, the Fab Four had drifted apart. Paul McCartney became more and more interested in a solo career, and John Lennon's marriage to avant-garde artist Yoko Ono made him realize there was more to life than just being a Beatle. When the group broke up in 1970, one question remained. Will there ever be a reunion? In late 1980, John Lennon returned to recording after a 5-year break. His comeback renewed speculation and hope of a possible Beatles reunion. But December 8th, 1980 changed all that. Even with Lennon's death, rumors persisted that the remaining three would still come together. In 1995,
I heard it, and I was very emotional. I thought, wow, you know, yeah, the boy, Johnny, you know, of course I loved him, you know. And I spoke to Ringo on the phone, and I said, listen, you better keep your hanky. Over there, and you're not necessarily looking at him. He's here in the headphones.
the anthology was a huge success, fueling rumors of a reunion tour. Being a Beatles fan myself, I couldn't resist asking Ringo Starr if just maybe...
I know you're asked this question all the time, but you've been offered so much money.
Yeah.
And the three of you have gotten together for different projects.
Well,
why don't you tour together?
Well, because it's not us. You know, there were four of us. I mean, let's end this conversation. There were four of us, and unless four of us go out, we're not going.
Really?
Really.
Well, even if they wanted to, they would be hard-pressed to find the time.
What would you do
if I sang out of tune.
Ringo Starr is currently getting a little help from friends like Peter Frampton on his highly successful all-star band tour. George Harrison's association with Ravi Shankar continues with the current release of Shankar's Chants of India, an album produced by Harrison.
I'd love it that the whole world could listen to this sort of music.
I can see the world tonight.
And Paul McCartney gets back to his Beatle roots in Flaming Pie, his first album in 4 years.
After the anthology, yeah, I'm much more comfortable with admitting Beatle influences.
George Harrison and Ringo Starr also share McCartney's enthusiasm for the Beatles' legacy.
I don't mind now. I mean, I got tired with it after the 60s, but all this time later, it didn't bother me.
Well, the Beatles, actually, they just keep selling. And generation after generation gets into the music. Thank goodness.
Their music just never gets old.
Which former Beatles debut solo album was #1 on the charts this week in 1970? The answer's coming up in the Access Spotlight.
Access Hollywood is brought to you by Diet Coke, just for the taste of it.
In Spotlight, a look at this week in entertainment history. Jay Leno took over the hosting reins of The Tonight Show this week in 1992. And the answer to our Spotlight quiz. So which Beatles debut solo album was #1 on the charts this week in 1970? It was Paul McCartney's album, McCartney, released nearly a month before the final Beatles album, Let It Be.
Nothing you can.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for us right now. We will see you next weekend for our hot summer show.
But right now, we're going to leave you with more of Ringo Starr getting some help from his all-star friends. See you next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.
I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. What do I do when my love is away? Doesn't worry to be alone. How do I feel at the end of the day? Are you sad because you're on your together own? Now? No, I get by with a little help from my friends. I get high with a little help.